I'm excited to welcome each of you to the TRIO's third annual Persist panel discussion. The purpose of this panel is to give students, staff, faculties, administrators, and the community at large an opportunity to recharge, to be inspired and encouraged through the stories of overcoming, persistence, and perseverance. I would like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Brittany Mcgraw. Ms. Mcgraw is a Charlotte, North Carolina native who graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She currently anchors the 5 p.m., 7 p.m., and 11 p.m. Newscasts at the WSLS, the NBC affiliate in Roanoke, Virginia. Ms. Mcgraw started in Roanoke, Virginia of December 2017 and quickly became involved in the community as a mentor with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Southwest Virginia. She is a member of the Alpha Kappa Incorporated and a member of the Junior League of the Roanoke Valley. She is also an active member of the National Association of Black Journalists, and she is a member of the Roanoke chapter of the Girlfriend Incorporated. She is a new member of the Board of Directors for CHIP for Roanoke Valley. Ms. Brittany Mcgraw is an award-winning journalist, most recently winning the 2021 Regional Emmys Award for Outstanding Community Service. Let's welcome Ms. Brittany Mcgraw to the stage.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, we can do a little better than that. I know it's lunchtime. However, good afternoon. Let's bring some energy. Good afternoon. Having persistence and perseverance are, of course, characteristics that we need in all aspects of our life when it comes to work, when it comes to our families, and especially when it comes to school. And it's our hope that over the next hour, we can delve into some of the topics and some of the issues that can come with having to balance work and life and school, and talk about those issues and how you can persevere, how you can be persistent, how you can continue to push through and keep going even when times get tough, because it's so important to invest in yourself, to invest in your education. So we have a wonderful panel before us this afternoon that we're going to be able to hear their stories and hopefully inspire you and give you some encouragement as you continue your journey. As you heard, my name is Brittany Mcgraw. I anchor the 5, 7, and 11 o'clock newscasts at WSLS, and I'm a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And while it was not an easy journey, I will say that getting my college degree and getting my college education was well worth it, because it has opened doors for opportunities that I always wanted to do within my career. At this time, we have an esteemed panel that we would like to learn more about, and I'm going to ask each of our panelists to share their name and a little about themselves in 90 seconds or less, and we're going to start with Mylan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mylan, and I work at Virginia Western Community College in the School of Career and Corporate Training. And I'd like to leave you with two memories from my childhood that have kind of guided my work and my mission to this day. The first is I had a brilliant academic career, the kind of academic career everyone would want, up until the fall semester of the first grade. And after that, it was all downhill. And so I knew very early on what it meant to have a wonderful education experience, and on the other hand, what it meant to be bored and disengaged. The other memory I'd like to leave with you is that in those early years, my family would drive to church and every Sunday, and our route would take us by this beautiful campus. It was the Annandale campus of Northern Virginia Community College, and it was only a few years old at that time, so it was gorgeous. It had a lake in the front, and I remember as a young child wondering what goes on that campus. I didn't use the word campus. What goes on in those buildings? And that question has driven me to this day. And I want to be sure that everyone in our community knows what goes on here on Virginia Western's campus.
Thank you, Mylan. I am Rolando Holmes, and I love the Roanoke Valley. There are a few things. I'm going to start with two things you need to know about me. One, I love cats. I am currently wearing cat socks. Number two is that I love my wife, and she is right here in the front row. What else you guys need to know is that my college experience was not the traditional model. So what I tell everyone is that I went to 4 different schools, had 6 different majors, and ultimately it took me 10 years to finish my bachelor's degree, which I'm very, very proud of. So not the traditional experience, and I'm super happy and excited and honored to be here today as a panelist, and I'm excited to share more of my story with you guys.
Hello, everyone. I am Nicole Toler. I am the College Affordability Navigator here at Virginia Western Community College. I get the pleasure to work with adult learners each and every day. And it brings me joy to be able to help adult learners navigate coming back to school and navigating their fears and their concerns, and just having a place for them to be comfortable. I am a mother of 3 teenage boys. I'm so glad I still got hair. My oldest son go to ODU, and my 2 younger ones go to Northside. And I want to leave with you guys just this little tidbit that even though there may be roadblocks in front of you, those roadblocks are just detours to your final destination.
Good evening, afternoon, everyone. My name is Davina Gardner, and I, like the others, I am a Virginia Western alumni. I started my educational journey here as a non-traditional student at the age of 43. Married, my husband is in the audience as well, with 4 children, 3 grandchildren. Prior to coming to Virginia Western, in 2008, I was diagnosed with panic disorder with agoraphobia. So that would have been an obstacle that I had to overcome. It was at one point in time, I couldn't even leave the house. After working with behavioral specialists at some point, it was my desire to give back. I wanted to help someone who is going through the experience. After working with the behavioral specialist, I decided to come to Virginia Western, and I started taking classes in human services. I am proud to say that as of May, I graduated from Radford University with honors and my master's in social work.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Douglas Pitzer. From the picture, you may see my hair is a little bit longer. That was a picture pre-COVID. I'll just tell you some of the roles that I played within Roanoke since my return in 2017 from the Dominican Republic. I'm now on the executive board of the Humble Hustle Company Incorporated. I'm on the Gun Violence Committee for the City of Roanoke. I'm on the Youth Services Citizens Board for the City of Roanoke. I'm the director/chair of education for Mill Mountain Zoo, as well as I'm now the financial literacy teacher for William Fleming High School. All of these positions kind of came to me through a need, and we're going to talk about how more so going for what you want, there are these areas where you're needed, and just kind of being able to determine that difference between the two.
All right, thank you so much. We're so blessed to have so many perspectives among our panelists this afternoon, and it just goes to show there's just no one route to get to your life's destination, and we'll hear more of that over the next hour. Now, I do want to ask the folks in our audience, how many of you are the first in your family to go to college? That's awesome. Now, for our panelists, how many of you were the first in your family to go to college? And we're going to start with Douglas here on the end. For you, why did you decide that you wanted to go to college?
Okay, I graduated high school 2008. As some of you may know, that was during the time of the housing market crash. So we had different conversations in the high school of like what was coming next for us, because it was at a time of honest chaos. And I remember one of the takeaways that one of my teachers, Gerald Rose, provided me with. He was saying, technology is going to constantly change. The world is going to constantly change, but the skills that you're able to obtain and keep, you'll always be able to utilize. And so from there, I knew in order to get the skills that I needed to go to a space or a location that could provide me with those skills or just that education. And it just seemed simplest to go to college for myself.
I too was the first to graduate as far as my siblings from college and attend college. My reason for wanting to go to college was it was something that I wanted to do for me. I am a person that I'm everyone's biggest cheerleader. So I like to cheer people on and get them to where it is that they want to be, but never have decided on something I wanted to do for myself. So coming back to school and utilizing the Virginia Western campus was something I desperately wanted to do for myself, and I'm just thankful that I did.
Yeah, I think for me, when I look at, one, I was not the first person to go to college, but I was the first person in my family to get a bachelor's. So, very proud of that. For me, the reason why I decided to go to college early on, I chose Western because, one, it was free. Two, they had a basketball team at the time, and I wanted a chance to play at the next level. So I came to Western. And then at the same time, I think for me, I looked at it as a chance for me to make my way out of poverty. I mean, I looked at it as a chance to do something to help make myself and my family more successful. So.
All right, Rolando, hold the mic, because I want to ask the next question to you, because you've had quite the journey to getting a college degree. So why was it so important to you to get one, to spend, I think you said 10 years? That's a good question.
Yes,
you said 10 years.
So this one, so for me, 10 years, again, like that's a long time, you guys. And when I look back, I think the odds were stacked against me. Like statistically, based on the neighborhood that I'm from, based on the schools that I went to, based on my parents' income level, and based on their education level, like I was probably not supposed to get even an associate's degree. And so I think I took that personally. And so I wanted to do something I wanted to change that narrative and then have a chance to be successful and to change the trajectory of my life.
Thank you. Thank you for that, because that made me think of something else that I talk to my students about right now in financial literacy. We often talk about how it's important to have balance and it's important to have boundaries. We think about the boundaries that we have in relationships. We think about the boundaries that we have in friendship, but we often don't think about where does that boundary, that line stop in business. And so I've been speaking with some of my students about, I understand you may want to go straight into a trade. You may want to go straight into the workforce. But where does that level of skill stop? Where are you going to be where does that boundary line kind of end at? And so college can expand, it can scale that boundary or just that comfortability that you have in your skill and in that trade that you're interested in for the future. And another thing to talk about is programs such as CCAP, such as Fast Track. They are providing you with opportunities to do this that we've never had in the past. So I often tell people, take advantage of these opportunities while we have them, because we really don't know how long they'll be around.
So back to Brittany's question, I had no interest in going to college at all. So the fact that I had someone in my family that had earned the baccalaureate was of little to no consequence. You know, we're all kind of guided by our experiences, our personal experiences, and we learn to trust ourselves and the people that are around us. And my experience told me that formal education, that school, was not a fun place to be, and not a comfortable place to be. And the last thing in the world I wanted to do after high school, if I graduated from high school, was to attend college. And so for a time, I actually did stop out of high school because I had checked out of K-12 shortly after attending the first grade. So the last thing in the world I wanted to do was attend college. It was my then girlfriend, now wife, that encouraged me to look through the local community college's catalog to see if there were some programs that might interest me and that might spark my interest in learning. And she encouraged me, and she was on the college track, and she reassured me that when you go to college, you get to pick what you want to learn. It won't be like it was in high school or middle school. I don't know about that. But anyway, each one of us has a story. Each one of us has mental maps and stories that we need to challenge along the way.
And that's amazing because me and you have a lot in common. So when I attended Wim Fleming and I graduated in 90, and I could remember my mom pushing me to go ahead and graduate. And I remember walking across the stage, putting that diploma in her hand, and I said the words, "I will never set foot back on this campus again or go to school." And I think those were the most ignorant words I could have ever said. At that time, school was the last thing on my mind. But my son called me to the carpet. So education for me now, I didn't want to go any further, but I knew for my children, I wanted better than for myself. So I'm pushing him. Education is important. And right when it came time for my son to go to college, he said, well, what college did you graduate from? And he called me out. And I was like, oh, wow. So for me, it was important to lead by example. I diverted the question. I got out of some kind of way. But then it was in the back of my mind like, uh-oh, you need to do this. And again, I wanted to do it for myself, but he called me out. So that helped.
That's excellent. And that reminds me how important it is to know your why. So originally, I only started taking classes at the community college to learn the skills I needed to get a job. I had no intention of earning a college degree. And so it took me, Rolanda, you ready for this? It took me 8 years to earn my associate degree. And the reason for that is originally I had no intention in that. In fact, I was really putting it off. So it wasn't until I learned my why that I was able to reorder my priorities and make it happen. And the same is true with subsequent college degrees. And my doctoral experience was quite rapid because I'd been thinking about it for years and like you, had several people saying, this is what you need to do and this is why. And I thought, that doesn't motivate me. So we need to do wherever you're from, whoever you are, it helps to do the right things for the right reasons. Once I'd identified the right reason for me and was motivated appropriately, then the rest falls into place.
And some of you have already shared your why, but if anyone wants to share again, what was your why in this journey?
So I am one of the first to graduate from college. And my why was I was sitting down. I have a son who has autism, and he was having seizures at that moment. And I finished high school. Well, I got my GED. Let me back up. So I got my GED, and I was sitting in the living room, and I was just exhausted. And I was an at-home mom, but I knew I wanted to do better. And I wanted better for my children because my children were getting older. So I know they're going to get older, and they're going to leave the home, and I want something better for them as well. So I was like, I want to try and go to college. So I tried Virginia Western, and I'm not ashamed to say it anymore. I tried Virginia Western about 3 or 4 times, so I dropped out 3 or 4 times because I didn't think I can do it. And then I also had some other issues that came. Life happened, life happens. And my son, similar to your story, my oldest son, Jesus, he was in governor's school. And he was telling me all these dreams about going to college. He's going to college. He's going to college. I was like, okay, babe. He said, because my mom has a bachelor's degree, and I'm going to college. And I didn't say anything in front of anyone, I was like, oh, okay. And so when I got home, I looked at him. I said, Mommy didn't go to college. However, I'm going to go to college and get my degree before you go to college and get your degree. So I did that while he was in high school. I was in college. When he graduated high school, a year before he graduated, I graduated with my associate's degree. And now he's at ODU working on his associate's degree in cybersecurity. So that's my why.
Now, Nicole, I feel like you said it best. Life happens. When we are on this journey working to get our education, life happens. Challenges come our way. So for whoever would like to share, what are some of the obstacles that you faced and how were you able to overcome them?
I'm going to start with that question. On my journey here at Virginia Western, I faced a lot of obstacles, and a lot of people that worked with me in TRIO stood by me through the whole entire process, and you know a lot of my story as well. So when I first got here, I struggled with paying attention in class and trying to grasp the information that the teacher was teaching me. And I thought that I was just dumb. I was like, I just can't get it. College ain't for me. I'm out, you know. And I ended up finding out that I had adult ADD. And so I found out, okay, I learn different, you know, so I need to figure out how can I learn. And I remember sitting down with one of the TRIO ladies, and she was like, let's figure out how you learn, how to study, you know, let's do different things. So I tried different things to help me be able to be successful in class. And then I started asking questions in class. I used to be terrified to ask questions in class, but I started asking questions in class. And then of course, life happened and I dropped out. And then when I came back again, it was around the time where I started having these real bad migraines. And I couldn't concentrate in class, even though I already know I had ADD. I was taking medication for it, but I just still couldn't concentrate in class because these migraines, if anybody ever had migraines, you know, and the migraines caused me to have seizures. So I was right there at the finish line of one of my certifications, and that's when you and I met, and I had to drop out of that because I was going through some medical issues, and I was devastated. And I was in a state of depression. And I remember someone was asking me, when are you going back to school? And I was like, well, I got this, I got that. I can't drive anymore. They took my license. You know, I got my kid. I got this. I got my other children. I'm married now. I got the church. And she says, Nicole, what if I took away all your excuses? What would be your excuse not to go back to school? What is holding you back? And I couldn't say anything, because at that point, I didn't have no excuses. What was really holding me back was fear. Fear that I was going to come back in here and drop out again. Fear that I was going to come in here and something else was going to happen. And I think it was that later on that year, I applied to Virginia Western again. And I got into something that I was very interested in. I got with TRIO and other resources here on campus. And that was the year that I got more involved on campus, and I was able to graduate with my associate's degree with 3 children, one that has autism, as well as I work in my church as well. So I wear many hats, and I was an ambassador here, so I was juggling a lot of things. But I looked at those obstacles, like I said in the beginning, as they were detours for me. It was a detour in the beginning. It was another detour that took me on another path, and another detour that took me on another path. But that detour finally got me to the finish line. And now I am actually studying to get my BSW so that I can help others that deal with different things that mentally deal with different things as well.
That is awesome. Obstacles, the question was, and how did I overcome it? As I told you, I was diagnosed with panic disorder, so fear is what she said was the biggest obstacle for me. It was coming into a classroom and not knowing if I would be able to make it through the whole classroom. It was coming into the classroom and wondering if I would even just grasp the concept of writing papers, getting the material and letting it stick with me. And so I remember the first day that I arrived on campus for class. The first class I had, it was an English class, and it was Professor Kathy Boylan. I'll always remember her because she had the biggest impact on my life for Virginia Western campus. I came in and I was really nervous. I purposely sat in front of the classroom, like on the very front row, so in my mind that everybody behind me, I wouldn't have to focus on who was looking at me, what they were doing. No distractions. In my mind, it was just me and the teacher. And so when she came in, the best thing she could have done for me was she starts her class off with the icebreaker. And she put on YouTube, and she had this funny video, and it was like I could feel it starting to melt away. And by the end of the class, I said, well, I'm going to be transparent just to let her know this is what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with fear. I'm dealing with anxiety. And I don't know if I'm going to make it the whole semester, but I'm going to be honest with her, and I'm going to tell her what's going on. And so I remember going up to her and when we were having this conversation and I was talking to her and she immediately said, Davina, there are programs on this campus. You need to link up with somebody in the trios department. They have a disabilities department. And she started naming all these things and I'm like, wow. And she comforted me in a way that she was like, if you ever need to excuse yourself, you've told me, we have that understanding, excuse yourself. It made me feel so great. So after I left the class, I could remember after going through that whole day, and I had talked to each of my teachers to explain to them. And I remember going down to trios, and I started with the disability department first and filled out that paperwork. And then I went to trios department, and from that moment on, just connecting with everyone in trios and utilizing those resources, it was a game changer. It was really a game changer. And honestly, having those accommodations in place, the extra test-taking minutes, the being able to record some of the classes and using that, the tutors on campus. I mean, it is so many resources on this campus. It is unbelievable. And for me, I used all of them. Anything that was available to me, I'm going for it. So that's what I chose to do. And again, like I said, it was a game changer. And honestly, I believe that what I got from Virginia Western, and I won't take anything from Radford, but what I got from Virginia Western, I learned more here than I've learned at the four-year college. It's just, I can't say enough about Virginia Western. So that's how I overcame my obstacle.
Absolutely. Can we give a round of applause for that? I like to clap, and I think what they shared was awesome and amazing. When I think about obstacles and I listen to what you guys have shared, I think a common theme there is that they asked for help. And I think when I look at my life, my dad has always told me, if you don't ask for help, you'll never get it. Or if, more in his words, closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't ask for help, you won't get it. And then if you do, you'd be surprised at the number of people who are willing to help you and the number of resources that are available to help you get there. There are so many things here at Western. There are so many people, I think, Trio and Cheryl, and then Frank Tyree, and just all of the wealth of people here who are here and willing to help. So.
But what's the key thing? You need to ask. You need to seek those resources and connect with those people and those programs. Our panelists have been through a lot in their journey to get their education, and we know that many students are going through some of the same things. You just think, I can't work, I can't take care of my family, I cannot do all of these things at once, so something's got to give, and it's going to be my education. But asking our panelists, when you were at that point where you could not see the light at the end of the tunnel, you just thought, this just isn't worth it, for you all, what helped you to keep going? Douglas, I'm going to start with you.
For myself, when we talk about, okay, I'll start it off like this, saying, we often limit ourselves by our circumstances. We often limit ourselves by our resources. We look at our resources and we look at what we have available, and then we try to map out what we can do with those things. And we're kind of looking at it backwards. The greatest resource that you have is your imagination, is your creativity. So when we're talking about not seeing the finish line, and we're talking about the limitations that you have that's in front of you, you need to be able to look past those things and look at that kind of finished result. Ask yourself, just kind of put the barriers to the side and ask yourself, what is it going to take for me to get here? And then put the pieces together of what will it take for you to make it happen. But so often we say no before we even try because of those circumstances. And I understand that we all have a heavy workload, kind of that wraparound service. We have to deal with home, we have to deal with school, we have to deal with the community. And it is a heavy burden. But just keep in mind, the greatest resource that you will always have is that your mind. And what you're doing here is building that resource, so it will make you better.
Yeah, I think I want to add to that. It wasn't that long ago that I was eating hot dogs and pizza across the hall. And, you know, I remember I was here at Western when I turned 22 and was still, you know, at the finish line of my associate's degree. And I remember seeing, like, my friends from high school start to graduate. And I remember saying to myself, like, man, like, you're not where you should be. You haven't done what you should have done. Everyone else is. And then I think to Douglas's point, I had to take a reality check for myself and say, man, like, your path is not everyone else's path. Like, the way that your life looks, other people haven't had to walk in your shoes, like literally my shoes. And so I think for me, I just had to change my perspective a little bit and just be able to say that, hey, my path is going to be whatever it is, and that's okay. That's okay. And so this question here about, not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, like, I get that. I understand that. I rode the bus to and from Western. Like, I struggled. I mean, I worked not because I wanted to work. I worked because I had to work to support my family at times. And so for me, I understand that struggle. And I think what I would want to imbue to you guys is just that it's okay. Like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to get it wrong. That is the human experience. That is normal. It's okay. It's okay. And that you can keep going. You can absolutely keep going. So that's what I have.
Real quick. My two, for me, what worked was time management, and for me, just showing up. Like he said, I can't judge anyone's situation. I just knew for me, each day I showed up. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And actually, the human services classes for me, I looked at it as free therapy. So I was learning. I'm like, this is free. I get several classes of this, and I was learning more about myself. So all that in a nutshell was just keep showing up. And that's what worked for me.
So at the risk of sounding a little heretical, let me say that for me, college degree is not the goal. College degree is optional. Learning for me is the imperative. So I would say that perspective is really useful. So all except for maybe one semester, all of my work over the years in college has been as an adult, married, with kids, including chronically ill, sometimes worse than chronically ill, children with multiple jobs, extremely low income, often sometimes eating peanut butter in the kitchen for dinner. And as I look back, I really don't consider those experiences, broken cars, long commutes, all the rest. I really don't consider those things obstacles. I view them now as context for learning. So life happens, but life is what it's about, not going to college. College is a vehicle for learning. So I'm just, without projecting here, I think that I've heard in some of these stories that these experiences have informed the formal learning and what comes after. And I can tell you that that's certainly the situation in my case. So I actually unexpectedly developed quite an interest in this movement around adult learning, which is something that you don't, or at least back in the day, you didn't hear much about. And that later that informed my employment. It informed my studies, my research, my work, my mission. And if I had been a traditional student, if I had just had a wonderful K-12 experience and went right into college, I can't imagine what that life would have been like. But working here at the college, I know what it is to have the kinds of experiences that our students have. I authentically know what it means to be a community college student as an adult with many challenges, and to wonder, why am I here? Is this going to be worth it? And what comes next? So there are some unhealthy things in our lives that can be obstacles that we need to ignore or do away with. But also, don't be afraid of. I would encourage people to embrace the broader context of your life that gives it richness. Your family, your faith, your service, yes, your employment, even if you're holding down 2 or 3 jobs. There's meaning in all of that.
For those students who are having that thought that you just shared, I don't really know that college is for me. It's not really worth it. What advice do you have for them?
One of the advice that I give a lot of my adult learners is that college may not be for you. And that's okay to feel that way. But sometimes the reason why we say college is not for us is because we have a different view of what college is. Some people view college as the 13th grade. Or a lot of adults feel like, oh, when I come to college, I got to take a whole bunch of course loads at one time. I don't have time for that. And so I normally, when I have a student that tells me this, or a prospective student, I tell them, I ask them, I said, well, how much time do you have? And what are your goals? Did you know that you can take one class or two classes? Did you know you can get a certification? Did you know you can advance in your career by getting a trade? And they're like, trade? Certification? What? And I'm like, yes, those options are out there for you. And they're like, well, let me get more information on that trade and certification. And this is what I'm doing at the moment, and I want to learn electrical wiring, or I want to learn HVAC. And I'm like, well, we have that at Virginia Western, and those options are available to you. And you can see that their anxiety kind of melts, and they're like, so I can take one or two classes. I don't have to take like 5 or 6 classes or 18 credits. And I'm like, no. You don't have to do that. Well, what about financial aid? Don't you need to take a lot of classes to get financial aid? And I tell them, no, you don't need to take a lot of classes to get financial aid. And another thing that an advice that I give students is, a lot of them are worried about how am I going to fund my education. I have to work. I have childcare. I have bills. And I let them know, we have a lot of options here at Virginia Western. You can fill out the financial aid application, which opens up doors to see if you qualify for scholarships. I also tell them, if you go on your bank that you bank with, did you know that they offer scholarship opportunities as well? The place that you worship at, sometimes they offer scholarship opportunities as well. If you're volunteering at different organizations, they also offer scholarships as well. And then we have a payment plan that is doable for adult learners. Even if you are pension pennies, Virginia Western is here. We will find a way for you to be able to continue your education or get your certification. So my advice to adult learners when they are just feeling like school is not for them, I tell them all the time, I tell them that school is for everyone. It's just what you make of it.
I would say 2 things to the individual who was thinking, is this for me? And it was the same type of questions that I had to ask myself before getting my master's at Virginia Tech. The first thing would be able to differentiate between what you think, what you feel, and what's actually real. A lot of times we make decisions based off of feelings, but feelings change often. They change like the seasons. You may feel that way in this point of your life, and then it changes very quick. Another thing, we often overthink. We often come up with our own ideas based off of social media or who knows what. But we need to be able to actually know what the real situation is. Do your research on it before you just say no. Just find out that you can differentiate between the 3. And then I would also ask yourself, are you saying that college isn't for you because you're looking at the value or you're looking at the utility of it? Keep in mind that it may have that value of you'll make this percentage of a salary, or you may only be worth such and such. But think about the actual utility, the skills that you'll take away from having that degree. The physical degree is not going to do as much for you as what you actually learned and what you apply to your life.
Yes, absolutely, Doug. I think many college graduates, and we talk about this in our organization all the time, like you don't get a job and then like wave the degree around and then like magically you know what you're doing, and you like that's not how this works. That's not how it works at all. And so I agree with what we've all said. I think for me, what I've realized is like for someone to say that, to say, I don't think school is for me. Well, you're probably right. The formal education model doesn't work for a whole lot of people. Like most of the people who it actually works for go on to become academics. And so if you're not in that 5% of people, then you probably fit in the boat where it's not actually for you. And sitting in the classroom per se, the formal model may not work for you. for me, it didn't work. I quickly realized that sitting inside of the class was not for me. I was bored, but when I got into some online classes, I realized I can do this all day. Like I can rock this. And I think there's a point to be made here about having a growth versus a fixed mindset. And I think oftentimes when we run into some of these kind of thoughts, I would challenge people to say like, hey, that's like, you're saying that you don't think college is for you and therefore you can't do it. And I would say that's not true. I say that's not true at all. You can learn and grow and adapt to make the situation work for you as best as you can. I had to take classes inside of the school at times, and I had to do my best to make that work for me when that was what needed to happen. And so, yeah.
I think that's a great point. I think for me, I would recommend to someone that's wondering if college is for them, ask a different question, and that different question would be, what do I need to learn to at least head in a direction that I think I would like to go, even if the vision is not as clear as we would like it to be. So there's this concept that's not necessarily well understood in higher ed. It's called career pathways. So we're familiar with degree programs, but career pathways offer opportunities for individuals across the educational and experiential spectrum to find and access different learning experiences, starting with even rudimentary skill building courses. So sometimes thinking about a college degree may just be too much. That may be too big a bite to start with. If you're interested in healthcare, for example, but the thought of qualifying to enter into a degree field and then what, and I'm not even sure, and well, talk to an advisor, get a better understanding, do a little research, get a better understanding of what career pathways look like in that broad career field. And it may simply be that a single 12, 14-week course to become a clinical medical assistant may be what you need to give you a taste of what it means to work with others, to serve and to be in someone's physical space, to learn basic skills, and to get that first job. There's no harm, no foul in that, and you haven't committed to a whole degree program. And earning those skills, earning that industry credential, and getting that first job can help you earn the money that you need to go back to school for something else once you're able to more clearly identify your target.
I just wanted to add one more thing as well. For the individuals who do say, yes, college is for me. I'm not sure of the statistic here, but I know at Norfolk State University, my undergrad, the dropout for the first year, that rate was extremely high for people that try it that first year and just don't make it through that freshman year. I just want you to keep in mind as well, consistency feels like success. Just going through the motions and literally being consistent. You're literally just piecing the knowledge together through trial and error, honestly. But the key is to just stay consistent and just see if you can make it to the finish line, but don't quit.
That's right. Stay consistent and show up. We appreciate our panelists sharing their experiences, opening up to us, sharing their knowledge and their wisdom. But we also want to give you an opportunity to ask questions of our panelists. So we have time for about 1 or 2 questions. So if anyone has a question, please stand and shout it out. Well, I have a question for our panelists, and each of you has to answer this one. I know, this is a wild card. All right. So what advice would you have for looking back on your journey, where you sit now, what advice would you have for your younger self as you were going through this journey, as you were facing these obstacles and challenges? What word of encouragement or advice would you give to yourself?
I would my younger self, I probably would say stay the course. I don't think that there's a lot of things that I would want to change. Like, he stated earlier, because it made who I am right now. So I am thankful for every obstacle, everything that I've gone through. But yeah, stay the course.
I would tell my younger self, be yourself. Be your authentic self. If you want to study nursing, do nursing. If you want to be a teacher, be a teacher. If you want to do music, do music. Be yourself. I think what held me back so long to get my degree was the fact that I was studying things that everyone else said that they thought I should do. My husband wanted me to be a nurse. I tried nursing. That was not for me, and other people were like, oh, you'd be a great teacher. No, I hate math. That is not for me. So it took me all the way until I got in my 30s to find out that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people mentally, and I wanted to do social work. That was my calling. I knew even when I was younger that was my calling, but everyone else kind of squashed that dream. So if you want to be a chef, be a chef. If you want to be a doctor, be a doctor. Just be who you feel like you are called to be and not what everyone else thinks you should be.
Yeah, I think my advice to my younger self would be just what I said earlier. Like, it's okay. You got it. It's okay. It's okay that you're struggling. Like, it's okay that, you failed this class. It's okay to take a break. It's okay. That's what I would tell my younger self, because I think I got really wrapped up in like the expectations of life, and that it's not okay to fail a class, and which it's not, but at the same time, like, life happens, like, we make mistakes, and that you can keep going. I think that's what I would tell my younger self.
I know what I want to say, but the actualization of it, is going to be so unique for each one of us, and so deeply personal. I think learning to love yourself, learning to love others, learning to love God if you're a person of faith, are really, really important. Because one of the things that really rocks or can rock a person is when their self-worth is defined or impacted by, as Douglas said, what's on social media or what others think of them. I'm kind of in this interesting position in my life where a lot of blue-collar, skilled trades folks, a lot of them don't necessarily trust me or know what to make of me, even though part of me is still one of them. I still am a certified automotive master technician. But they understand that and they'll say, well, you're a vice president or you're a whatever, and you wear a jacket to work, and all of these artificial trappings, none of which are me, which is why I introduce myself by my first name only. On the other hand, there's others that are in the academic space that don't trust me either, because while I have a PhD and I've demonstrated my value in this space, they understand that I've come from a very, particularly non-traditional, circuitous route, which is, it's easy to misunderstand and not trust. All along the way, I think what I would have shared with myself and thought more about is spend time on those kinds of activities and the healthy thoughts and emotions that reinforce who you really are as a person, not what somebody else says you are, or says you should be, or says you should do. And I think if I had been more in that space, as Davina mentioned, that I would have enjoyed and appreciated many of those experiences I was going through even more than I did. I remember being at church one time, and someone who was very well formally educated and also, but very open also, came up to me and said, where did you go to school? And I don't remember where I was yet in the degree pattern, But even if I had earned a degree or two at that point, I still would have felt a little anxious about that because I don't define myself by my college degrees, right? And so I simply replied, I went to HKU, and he looked at me, and I said, the School of Hard Knocks. And to his credit, he nodded sagely and said, I know some people that went there. And I think as we learn to love ourselves and love others, and if you're a person of faith, love God, I think we can just grow in our experiences and take it a step at a time.
All right, Douglas, close us out.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, 30 seconds, and then we'll get the question.
Very fast.
Your advice to your younger self?
Yes, very fast. The advice that I would give to myself is actually a conversation I have with my students, and it's simply don't grow up too fast. We often go to college and we immediately feel like we're adults, we're grown. When I went to undergrad at Norfolk State, I took on a lot of adult responsibilities that I didn't need to take on that soon. I could have just spent time focusing on myself, being an actual college student. If you have that opportunity, take advantage of it, because once life actually starts, once you actually become an adult, you won't have that opportunity again.
All right, and we do have time for one.
But I want to encourage two people up there to say, about that spirituality, and I like that. And that was you and Nicole. Not only our religion and everything, but, the 6 things that make us a man and a woman. Okay, where is your spirituality at? As far as how would you rank that with your education and things that you've been using like?
I can go with that. The only reason I'm here today is because I stayed faithful. I kept my faith, because it's actually funny. Every year I adopt a word. My word of the year last year was structure. I wanted to build around structure. And this year I was having some difficulty finding a word, and it actually came to me. The word was no, because I've heard it so many times this year. However, because of my faith, because of my persistence, because of my continuousness, I'm able to continue to grow. So.
And I think I saw one more question. This will be our last question.
Well, I have to say I am your older you. So I would tell, I normally, someone told me, Nicole, give yourself grace. So the same grace that you extend to somebody else that holds themselves to a high expectation and don't allow themselves to have some room for failure or some room to fall behind a little bit, extend that same grace to yourself. I had to learn that this year. I'm not perfect. I wear so many hats, and I want to be perfect in all those different areas. And when I have one mishap, I beat myself up. So we're always like our number one critic. I do an affirmation every morning. I tell myself, I said, Nicole, it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be right. It's okay that you don't know something. It's okay that if you're struggling today, give yourself grace. And I tell myself that every morning. That's my affirmation every morning. And ever since then, when something is not going my way, or when I don't meet a deadline, or when I feel that, because I'm in school currently, when I get the grade that I feel like I should have got a better grade, and I try to beat myself up, I hear myself tell myself, Nicole, give yourself grace. It's okay not to be right. It's okay that you got a bad grade, and it's okay not to be okay.
If I could touch that really quickly, I agree. It's definitely someone who holds myself to a very high personal standard and has very high expectations for my life. And I think something that's helped me is I've had to change the way that I think about it and to be more like, to Nicole's point, that it's okay to mess up. But the way that I hold myself to a higher standard is that I say it's not okay for me to not go after pursuing greatness. Like, it's not okay for me to just mess up and sit in it. Like, I can't just sit in my own mistake and wallow in it. I want to be someone who goes after doing what's right, who goes after fixing his mistakes, who goes after persevering and persisting. So that's, I would just give you that.
Well, at this time, I would like for us to give a big round of applause to our panelists and a big thank you for sharing your journey, sharing your experiences, and sharing your wisdom with us this afternoon. We know, as you all said, life happens. And so it is so important to continue to have that persistence and that perseverance to keep going, to run through the finish line. So we appreciate you all sharing your knowledge with us this afternoon.